Hello, good afternoon. My name is Lowell Mower, as you probably already know if you're watching this. Um, thank you for watching. I wanted to start doing more vlogging and just documenting my build process as I explore new technologies and continue to hone my own skills throughout software and web development. So I need a place to kind of do all of that. And so I was thinking what I'd like to do is build a website or a personal site that can not only house all of these videos and screencasts, but also kind of be a portfolio for my projects. So I figured today I'm going to try and do a short um, screencast of setting up a repository on GitHub and then creating a new Rails application locally and then pushing that local application up to the remote repository. Um, and just kind of trying to keep this whole process in these short, kind of like 10-minute videos. I don't want to draw out these long, like half an hour screencasts. I'd like to keep them really short and kind of do like a piece by piece every day. So with that being said, I'm going to get started. I'm already logged into GitHub. If you don't know what GitHub is or you haven't used GitHub before, I encourage you to go check it out and read about it. Make an account. It's a wonderful resource. There's also Bitbucket. I've just personally always used GitHub. So that being said, once you're logged in, go ahead and let's create a new repository. Um, I'm going to kind of narrate this as if you want to do it yourself, but this is really mainly just for me. So if I don't hit all of the steps in the process, once these are hosted on the site, like feel free to leave comments. So we're going to create a new repository called vlog, because ultimately that's what I want to be doing here. And we'll give it a short description. So build a personal site for housing videos and projects. I actually prefer screencasts. Let's put screencasts in here. Screencasts and projects. Now, normally we would initialize this repository with some type of license, like in the MIT license or any number of other licenses here. This case, I'm not going to, just because I don't have any need for a license. I don't think this is going to be software that maybe others will use. Maybe it is, I don't know. But for right now, I'm just going to leave a license out of there. And I'm also not going to initialize it with a README because when we generate our new Rails application locally, we'll find it'll generate a README for us. So I'm going to go ahead and create this repository. And I'm going to leave this screen open while I jump into Terminal. And on this screen, it'll give us some information that we'll want to use in order to push our project up. So let's go onto our desktop. And from our desktop, we're going to create a new Rails application. So we're going to do Rails new and the name of our project. It's going to be vlog. Now we want to pass it a couple of flags, and I usually use these flags for most of the projects that I build. I like to work with Postgres. It's what I'm used to, so I pass the D flag, which tells the Rails generator what database to use. So we'll say PostgreSQL, and I also skip the test unit. So um, Rails will ship with a built-in set of testing called test unit, and I personally use RSpec. I just find it easier. It's what I know, so I skip test unit and will ultimately be putting RSpec on here. And you can absolutely not declare a database. You can not skip test unit, but if you do that, then you'll get SQLite as your default database and test unit for your testing. I'm also going to skip turbolinks. So turbolinks is essentially a way that Rails keeps the JavaScript and CSS files kind of like running in the background, for lack of a better way of putting it, as you switch to other pages, so that they don't get compiled every single time you like come back to that page. You can definitely read more about that if we go to turbolinks and go in here. So there's more information about what TurboLinks actually is, and it says TurboLinks makes following links in your web application faster instead of letting the browser recompile the JavaScript and CSS between each page. It keeps the current page instance alive and replaces only the body or parts of it. So my experience has been that this typically is very seamless and it works very well. But I do foresee us writing JavaScript on this and maybe even using some type of framework like Angular or maybe Ember or something of that nature. So I'm going to skip TurboLinks because I don't want any conflict in the future. Not necessarily that there would be, it's just not necessary for my project build. So we're going to go ahead and create this with our Postgres database, skipping the test unit, and skipping TurboLinks, and let Rails do that. Oh, that's right, I already have this on my desktop, so I'm actually going to cancel this. And a great command that you should get used to knowing is the remove, and then doing it recursively and all the files. So I want to remove the vlog directory. I have a skeleton in there right now. I want to remove that directory off of my desktop. So I can say remove recursively all files in the folder vlog and hit enter, and now it's gone. Typically, if you just do rm, it would say this folder's not empty. We can't do that. So the -rf flag is a good command to get to know. So let's run that other command again, the Rails new vlog with Postgres T, and skip TurboLinks. While that's running, we'll go ahead and close this out. And while that's being made, we're going to want to just copy this line right here. And we'll go back into here. Cool. So now that Rails made that skeleton for us, we'll go ahead and cd into that. And now that we are in our vlog directory, let's go ahead and paste that command in here. And what this command is doing is essentially adding this thing called a remote. And maybe even before we do that, let's delete this and we'll look at what our remotes are currently. So if we run git remote -v, actually it'll probably throw us an error because I don't think we even have a Git repository initialized yet. Exactly. So it's saying, hey, there is no Git tracking in here. So before we even work on pushing anything up to GitHub or tracking our changes with Git, we need to git init or git initialize. So it says initialized a Git repository in vlog. So now that we have Git initialized, we can start tracking all of our changes. So we just made one really, really large change. We made the vlog Rails application. We generated that. So there's a lot of files that need to be tracked. So we'll want to git add, and we're going to do it with a period, which will add all of those files. And we're going to write a short message to ourselves. And typically when you generate something like a new Rails application, your first commit will be something like initial commit. So that will now commit all of those track changes, and we can see that we're on our master branch now, and we have just tracked all of these files. So I'll clear that. So now we can run git remote. So we can see what remotes are set for this directory. And in doing so, we no longer get the error, but we also don't have any remotes, so it fails silently. So let's actually go ahead and paste that line back in. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a remote specifically to this URL, and we're going to add it under the alias of origin. So we're going to add this remote origin. Now when we run git remote v, we can see we have this origin remote, which points to github.com/vlog git, which is great. So now we have this empty repository online and this new Rails application locally, and we need to push this up to this. So let's just copy and paste this line, and we'll pop it in here, and we'll push up to that origin now. Put in our username, password. Oop, didn't type my password right. Great. So now when we go into this project, if we click on blog, we'll see that we have our Rails application here, and it says that the initial commit was made 2 minutes ago. We can see we have one commit here. And like I said, that README was created from Rails. We'll probably change this to Markdown instead of RDoc. Excuse me. Just because that's a preference of mine. There's this actually, I guess I'll point it out now. There's this site called Dillinger, which allows you to write Markdown and see it live on the other side. So we'll probably use that to kind of outline our project in the next video. But like I said, I want to keep these really short and kind of sweet and to the point. So I'm going to wrap this up here, and we'll probably cover outlining the project a little bit more in the next video, and maybe installing some of the gems that we're going to know that we're going to use, like our spec gem. But for now, thanks for tuning in. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Lowell Mower, and thanks again.